Jack.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some questions only because I'm confused. So, for instance, the cost of the pool. I believe, from the numbers that I've heard, it costs about $750,000 a year just to maintain it. And that alone would pay for my salary for about 15 years. Just 1 year for the pool. And as far as I know, the pool doesn't generate any money for us. On the other hand, I taught today classes at Maywood campus, and that campus is ready to bust out. I can't teach classes at the pool. My waiting list of students can't take any classes at the pool, let alone swimming. If we were to develop Maywood, for instance, with those $750,000 each year, we could generate money with that campus. I don't understand decisions like that, for instance. And if I could ask one more question, please. I believe the last time we had negotiations, you were present. And I think you said something to the effect of, the next time we do this, we can do it in an hour. Well, we've done it this last time, and you weren't present, and it's taken many, many hours without any ending. So my question is, why were you not present? Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. First of all, with the pool, you are right. And Heidi, do you want to talk a little bit? Heidi and Brandon and a few others did a nice job in doing a review on the pool. And I want to address that very quickly. Sorry.
We have been researching different kinds of options to try and reduce the operating loss that the pool does incur, and we are in the process of formulating those suggestions, and we'll be making a formal presentation to the board at their next meeting on Wednesday, April 13th. So until we're ready to give you the whole story as a complete story, I'd really rather not talk about it piecemeal and leave people with misleading information. I didn't bring any of those numbers with me, and I don't memorize them. So with your permission, we'll talk about that at April 13th.
And okay, thanks, Heidi. Thanks. And Jack, as far as the last piece about mine not being at the bargaining table, what was decided is that it's highly unusual for a president to be at the bargaining table. And that is nationwide. If you were to do research at colleges across the country, and even in Oregon, you will find that the president is rarely at the table. The president is to be a go-between, if you will. So it was just decided that it would be best that I not be. And that was after my statement about, hopefully we can get this done. Yes?
Naomi.
Oh, Naomi.
Yeah. I have a concern about the framework of the budget, because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have more revenue this year than we've ever had in the past coming to the college. And that while no doubt there's hard times for Oregonians in many different levels, part of what that does is bring people back to college and increases our enrollment and therefore that kind of revenue. So I'm confused about that, because it seems to me like this is a booming time in terms of revenue. Okay. And also with the savings that correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand it correctly, we virtually had no savings last year, and all of a sudden we're going to have 4.2 million?
Not going, we do have 4.2. That was gone from last year. We went from $100,000.
100,000 to 4.2 million.
Yes.
So that's quite a huge jump in this time when you're laying people off. I can't understand that.
Okay. The first issue is about the numbers, or the amount of money that we may be experiencing more revenue. At this time, we are not experiencing more revenue. Our enrollments are not growing as they did in the past. So our monies that are coming in from our enrollment are not. So our enrollment issues are one of the issues that we're dealing with. The other is the state reduction in the dollars.
We get 6.5 million.
I'm sorry?
Did we get 6.5 million this year and 6 million last year or something like that? We're going up in terms of...
So let me talk about both of those. You're absolutely right. If we grow enrollment, we get more money in tuition and fees. And then when we increase the tuition and fees like we did for the 10-11 year, we also get more money. So in terms of tuition and fees, we are collecting substantially more money than we have in the past. And that's how the state has expected community colleges to make up for the fact that they have reduced their funding. So as the state funding's gone down, tuition and fees have gone up, and the net effect is that total revenue stays about the same. I think part of the question comes from when you look at these graphs on the general fund, you have this kind of what looks like a big uptick, about $5 million over the last couple of years. So doesn't that mean we're getting all this more money into the general fund than we've ever had before? And the answer is no, because what we used to do is take all the money we were getting and divide it up into multiple bank accounts, if you will, divide it up into multiple different funds. And what we did in the last 2 years, not just last year but also the year before, is collapse all those funds back into the general fund so that all of the money over which we have discretion, therefore general fund dollars that do not come with the kinds of strings that grants, etc. do, we put back into the general fund. So it wasn't that so the general fund did get bigger, but it wasn't because we all of a sudden had more money. Along with all the more money, if you will, we came with the corresponding expenses. One example, graphic services used to be in a separate fund, aquatics used to be in a separate fund, and those are all now back in the general fund. So the revenue that they get, plus all the expenses that they are now all in the general fund, so it's more transparent, you can see it all in one place. In the process of doing that, collapsing those funds back into the general fund, the balances in those funds came into the general fund, and that's your $4.2 million reserve. So if you are at break even, where your expenditures match your revenues, the only way you could build savings, if you will, or reserves, is that you spend less than your revenue. And that would have meant even more cuts, possibly layoffs. So the board said, great, we'll just take the reserves that are already in those other funds, we'll bring them into the general fund, and now we have a reserve balance so we can spend every dollar of revenue to cover all of our costs to run the college. And that revenue is flat going into 11-12, and therefore we have a $5.5 million shortfall for the reasons Dr. Ski outlined.
Does that help, Naomi? Not really. What further questions?